Hello and welcome to Security Weekly News, episode 298 for the week of 14 May 2023. In today's show, ChatGPT, PentestGPT, BurpGPT, Cyber Resilient Act contains a poison pill, and malicious actors, along with Jason Wood, who is not a malicious actor. All this and more on this edition of Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week, your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for Security Weekly News.
Did you know that Active Directory is exploited in 9 out of 10 cyber attacks? With access to Active Directory, attackers can gain control of your network. To keep attackers out, you need to find and fix Active Directory security gaps. Meet Purple Knight, a free security assessment tool that scans your environment for hundreds of vulnerabilities and helps you fix the problems. Ready to reduce your Active Directory attack surface? Download Purple Knight, the #1 Active Directory security vulnerability assessment tool. Visit securityweekly.com/Semperis, SEMPERIS, for more information.
Application Security Weekly delivers interviews and news from the worlds of AppSec, DevOps, and all the other ways people find and fix software flaws. Join us as we explore how the latest news highlights modern security practices or reminds us of the missing ones. We also bring insights from interviews on topics from training to threat modeling, from open source tools to cloud-native techniques, plus an occasional reference from new wave to synthwave. Find us at securityweekly.com/subscribe or look for Application Security Weekly wherever you pick your podcasts.
I'm Aaran Leyland, and this is Security Weekly News, episode 298. First in the news this week, we have ChatGPT is about to revolutionize cybersecurity. So here we go again. The start of 3 articles in the news this week on ChatGPT. It's definitely not going away, especially now that it's been connected to the internet, which I imagine is making Stephen Hawking's roll over in his grave. And this one made me laugh this week. And Elon Musk go on another heavy night's drinking and sleeping in his car before meeting more world leaders. Okay, so reported in VentureBeat, the widely available use of machine learning and artificial intelligence for cybersecurity practitioners is relatively new. Although with vendor buzzword bingo, I don't know about you, but I was getting bored of hearing about it. Although I seem to talk about it a lot. Anyway, it's been reported that ChatGPT, which has already learned search processing language, can turn a junior analyst prompt into a query in just seconds, significantly lowering the bar for entry. But yeah, I guess it's not like 6 years experience for a new job. Anyway, if we ask ChatGPT to write an alert for a brute force attack against Active Directory, it would create the alert and explain the logic behind the query. Since it's closer to a standard SOC type alert and not an advanced Splunk search, this can be a perfect guide for a rookie SOC analyst. I myself have written some code with the help of ChatGPT, and I can definitely attest to the fact that it's great at commenting code, better than most coders, I think. Anyway, however, there are limitations to this usefulness, that we are currently not at the stage of complex human cognition and not coupled with real-world experiences that are often involved in some people's decision-making. It looks like we're still a minute away from Skynet off Terminator fame. So I've seen on social media recently some of my friends touting PentestGPT as a step up from Metasploit, which is possibly where most of us were able to pwn our first machine and thus becoming super hackers in the way that printing Hello World allows you to become a sick coder. GP hackers this week reported on ChatGPT powered penetration testing tool called PentestGPT, great name, that helps penetration testers to automate their pen testing operations. PentestGPT has been released on GitHub under the operator Gray DGL. who's a PhD student at Nanyang. I can pronounce that one, and then I couldn't say technological university in Singapore. Obviously, a very smart boy. It is constructed on top of ChatGPT and works in an interactive way to direct penetration testers during general and particular procedures. To access ChatGPT tool, PentestGPT tool. I knew this was going to go like that. ChatGPT plus member is required as it relies on GPT-4 model for high quality reasoning, and there also is no public GPT-4 API yet. So you'll have to put your hand in your pocket, is what I'm saying. According to Gray DGL, it's designed to automate the penetration testing process. It is built on top of ChatGPT and operates in an interactive mode to guide penetration testers in overall progress and specific operations. It's also able to complete, at the moment, moderate hack-the-box machines, apparently, and other CTF puzzles. So it's already better than me by the sounds of it. I guess in the weekend, I'm going to set up a new company and fully automate all pen testing jobs to Skynet. Okay, you'd never tell today that I wrote this script, would you? Okay, let's go on. In my final article today on GPT, we have an article from Cybersecurity News about BurpGPT, the ChatGPT-powered automated vulnerability detection tool. Cybersecurity News reported BurpGPT helps security researchers to detect the vulnerabilities that traditional scanners might miss. There you go. Another reason to set up a new company. You are welcome, viewers and listeners. Okay, so like PentestGPT, a BurpGPT was developed with deep vulnerability scanning features. BurpGPT combines Burp Suite, which we should all know, or most of us know, it's like on every course we ever do, with OpenAI's GPT to perform a massive passive scan to detect vulnerabilities and traffic-based analysis. The add-on accelerates vulnerability assessment and gives security experts a higher level overview of the scanned application or endpoint by utilizing AI and natural language processing. Honestly, I think we're only limited to our imagination on the functions GPT can assist with. And apparently, I hear this a lot. Bill Gates says, I choose a lazy person to do a hard job because a lazy person will always find an easy way to do it. And I think that person, like me, would be all over GPT and would probably be able to pronounce it better, but not in keeping with the point that it's also been heavily reported that Bill Gates thinks that AI could take over the world. Well, here's hoping, Bill, as they could hardly do much worse than our current leaders. Okay, enough about that. It's been reported in the Register that EU's Cyber Resilient Act contains a poison pill for open source developers. They say at the top level, it looks good. Brussels states that before products with digital elements are allowed on the EU market, manufacturers must follow best practices in 4 areas. Secure the product over its whole life, follow a coherent cybersecurity framework, show cybersecurity transparency, and ensure customers can use products securely. Sounds there like Europe are leading the way again. But then they state that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. The devil, as always, is in the details. And some of this has nothing to do with the open source software. And they say, good luck creating any program in any way that a clueless user can't screw up. That made me laugh so much today. It appears that CRA have no knowledge on how open source software is produced. And also, if this is not sorted soon, in my opinion, and a few others, we may end up with an ugly legal mess that will hinder open source development, which we all love, for years to come, and we'll all be turning in our graves. Okay, here we go again. Just when I was wrongly saying to Dr. Doug last week that WordPress has been quiet in the media, exploitation of critical vulnerability in essential add-ons for Elementor WordPress plugin began immediately after a patch was released. With over 1 million installations, the essential add-ons for Elementor plugin provides additional elements and extensions for the Elementor website building platform. Tracked as, can you remember these? CVE 2023-32243 with a CVSS score of 9.8. The critical severity vulnerability is described as an unauthenticated privilege escalation that can be exploited to take over any user account. That is really bad. Okay, get patching this if you have not done so already. So I tracked into the Insurance Journal today, and they reported that the European Union is weighing a plan that could require cloud providers to store all of their data within the block in order to qualify for its highest cybersecurity certification. ENISA, the EU cybersecurity regulator, is drawing up the new, stricter requirements to ensure that no foreign government can interfere with EU data. According to the draft of the proposal seen by Bloomberg, in practice, this would mean that the US cloud providers such as Amazon, Microsoft, and Alphabet would have to find a way to ensure that American government can't access European cloud data in order to qualify. Non-EU companies would have to either operate an EU legal entity separate from the parent company or be part of a joint venture with a European cloud company. Sounds like a headache coming for US companies, some of whom are probably still trying to get their head around GPD, GDPR, and safe harbor rules. Okay. MITRE publishes policy checklists for healthcare cybersecurity. The 17-step roadmap is meant to help sort out shared healthcare cyber hygiene responsibilities, giving policymakers and providers direction towards protecting patient safety in the face of cyber attacks. As we all know, healthcare has been getting a kicking over the last few years, so I would advise looking into that if you're in this sector. And to be honest, I'd probably look into it anyway to see what good points we can pull from it. Okay, so another CVE for you. Malicious actors exploit CVE 2023-2730 in Papercut, MF, and NG. The FBI's got involved in this with the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, and they released a joint cybersecurity advisor in response to the active exploitation. So it's really quite bad, actually. This vulnerability occurs in certain versions of Papercut NG and Papercut MF and enables an unauthenticated actor to execute malicious code remotely without credentials. Papercut released a patch in March 2023. And all the bad words there enables an unauthenticated actor to execute malicious code remotely without credentials. Get patching. Okay, now then. It's that time that you've all been waiting for. We have Jason Wood using his massive brain to pass on knowledge to us all. I have honestly heard it say in the dark net that he's smarter than your average bear. Hi, Jason.
Hey, Aaron, how's it going? I'm glad I made it to Yogi Bear levels.
Well, there is no better in my estimation, Jason.
Well, appreciate that. So this article I ran into actually last night on LinkedIn, and it basically hot on the heels of the U.S. Space Force being created in 2019, the idea of creating a completely new U.S. military branch dedicated to online offense and defense is getting much more attention. And since this is federal space, get prepared for lots of cyber here. basically, this idea has been brought up or been around for about 10 years and has been picking up more attention. I found several articles that at least went back about 5 years. But according to Defense Scoop, who published an article on it yesterday, this is getting a lot more attention. Lawmakers are starting to look at it a lot closer, and you're seeing more commentary from the proponents of the idea as well as the opponents to the idea. And they really kind of dug into this. Defense Scoop started it off by focusing on the positions of lawmakers in U.S. Congress, in particular those who are heading up committees who have some responsibility for cyber legislation and regulation. And basically it came down to Representative Mike Gallagher, who is the chairman of the House Armed Forces Subcommittee on Cyber, Information Technologies and Innovations. That's a mouthful. For being very much for the idea. In fact, he brought up General Billy Mitchell back in the 1920s, who said, "Hey guys, this air power thing is going to be kind of important. We should start preparing for this and get some real emphasis on Air Force power." And he got court-martialed for it, and then was later proved right. Anyhow, so that's Representative Gallagher's point of view. Senator Mike Rounds, who is the ranking member on the Senate Armed Services Subcommittee on Cybersecurity, was more skeptical of it. Needed some more convincing, I guess. His comments were basically focusing on the idea that, hey, we just got some stuff started with U.S. Cyber Command and things going operational there about 5 years ago. He didn't want to make any major changes unless there was a lot more certainty about whether or not it's going to actually improve anything. And then the article dives into, really the arguments for and against an independent cyber force, as they're calling it. Now, those who are in favor of it seem to largely be outside of the government. And the military especially, and the opponents of the idea appears to be the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Marines. So we'll start by taking a look at what the Association of U.S. Cyber Forces, which is basically a nonprofit who's advocating and lobbying for the idea that was started in 2019. They're pushing for the idea of creating the new military branch. And what they're proposing is the idea of, hey, let's create this along the lines of the U.S. Coast Guard or the National Guard. In their case, they seem to be particularly concerned about the strict limits that are placed on the larger branches of the U.S. military, active duty side of things, which they have a lot of limitations on what they can do operationally inside of the United States domestically. And obviously, since, when you get into this idea of operating online, geographic boundaries start to mean a little bit less and become much more blurred. So, in their case, they are proposing the idea of again, creating something along the lines of like the National Guard, which does have the ability to operate inside of the United States, primarily because, the National Guard, for example, is under the control of governors of each state, and they have laws that allow them to respond to different things depending on how they're activated and whatnot. Like, for example, COVID. I saw them, doing stuff in my state around COVID. The U.S. Coast Guard also is able to operate in the United States, is a military branch, but is not one that's combat-oriented. And, they have similar legal reasons behind that. The Association of U.S. Cyber Forces have proposed that any legislation spell out the limitations that they have on what they can do and can't do. And they basically propose eliminating U.S. Cybercom and take about 85% of the people from there and put them into the new military branch. which is immediately going to get the opposition from everybody who is in the uniformed services to this idea. And they start right off with General Keith Alexander, who was the first commander of U.S. Cybercom, as saying that, this isn't necessary. You don't need to create a new branch. What we need to do is model U.S. Cybercom on the capabilities of Special Operations Command, or SOCOM. Alexander is quoted as saying, the SOCOM-like model was right then and remains so today. Other officers give, their positions also against the idea, saying, hey, we're just going to duplicate work, and we just got operational capacity going 5 years ago. Let's see what we can do before we start changing things up. And really, very, very, very few military officers are going to sign up with the idea of, hey, now that we've put all this time into building up these units, let's take them away and give them to another force. I'm a bit mixed on this idea, honestly. I've only been doing a bit of reading. I'm a little wary of the idea of creating yet another new bureaucracy to manage something like this. I did go through and was doing some reading. Like, I read U.S. Cybercom's mission statement. What they say that they're aiming to do, and it sounded like a lot of waffle, to be honest with you. So I came away not really being sure what their mission actually is. If there are any of you listeners out there that could give that to me in more concrete terms, I'd be very interested in hearing from you. Probably the one big thing that seems as a positive for an independent cyber force comes down to their career and the interest of the officers and enlisted folks in it. First off, you have people who would go into this branch would be people who are already attracted to the idea of the mission. And this is something that they would want to be involved with, and that allows them to build up a culture and their own points of view that makes for a much clearer path to promotion, which is always important for anybody with their careers. And so that helps them feel like, hey, I've got a future going out here and doing this. I suspect that a number of the officers in particular who are assigned to U.S. Cybercom, but also enlisted side of things as they get into the more senior NCO ranks, those who get assigned to U.S. Cybercom could be very concerned about the impact on their careers if they were assigned to U.S. Cybercom. Really, because the U.S. military is combat focused, and then we've got this little cyber thing over here off to the side. So we sign you over here for a while, get you out of the spotlight for things that are going to help you for your promotion. And so I could see this as being a very unwelcome side trip in their career and potentially jeopardize some of the plans that they have as far as for promotion and stuff like that. So it seems like there'd be a lot of incentive for officers and senior enlisted folks to get out of there as soon as possible. So, again, the idea of getting something dedicated to that with its own culture for focus on promotions and stuff like that, that seems to be a pretty reasonable idea to me. Like I said, I'm still trying to decide what I think about this. I'm willing to be proved wrong, and I've already heard from at least one person on LinkedIn who is former military and is 100% behind this idea. I'm definitely interested in what current or former service members would have to say about this, who are involved in this area. So, if anybody's listening and was willing to share their thoughts, please drop me a line, because I would love to hear from you and see what you think. Obviously, there are limitations on what can be shared, but go ahead and catch up with me. If you're interested in checking this out, links are in the show notes.
I actually have some points on this, Jason. After spending 20 odd years in the Royal Air Force and working in sort of cyber, and then traditionally coming from a communications technician type background, what I found was that cyber now has become a great enabler towards the rest of the mission, and most missions should consider cyber as a key part. I think people getting a bit butthurt over this and that isn't really thinking about how it affects the country and how sometimes we need to make really hard decisions. Sometimes I had guys and girls working below me that we had put them literally on 4, 5, 6 SANS courses of $7,000-8,000 each, and then some of them naturally left and got jobs corporately, but some of them also just got posted away to an aircraft squadron and worked on servers with aircraft with absolutely nothing to do with cyber. So I think, at least financially and maybe a part of the whole defense mission, I personally think that having a cyber corps, I think is a good thing.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that because, I thought you might have an opinion on this given your background. So, there's definitely, you got that career focus and really people wanting to be there and not being shuffled off now that you've done this cyber thing over here. Now it's come back to the real.
And cyber's quite hard, right? It's not easy.
Yeah.
And once you're in, they've kind of got you, because if you're the type of person that like to take things apart, hack things as a child, when you get the chance to hack things in the military, you don't want to go back to a mundane job. We should pitch those powers that be that we need a whole podcast on this subject, and we'll call up some of the military members that are here as hosts on Security Weekly and some of the other cool kids, and we should have a big long chat about it.
That could be fun. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to dig into here. I think it's a loaded topic. I think particularly when you get into the politics at that level for something like this, would just be massive.
It's going to pull on people's heartstrings, isn't it?
To push against it.
Yeah.
What was that?
People are career focused. They're personally career focused. Some people might be all about themselves, but at the end of the day, mission first, country first.
Yep.
Thank you, Jason. Really good. Got me really excited there. Okay. And finally, nearly half of all internet traffic is now bots. A study reported in the UK Independent reveals. Apparently, some bots even mimic human behavior in order to avoid being detected by security software. Skynet is starting to claim them factories in preparation of mass producing autonomous cyborgs. I did not make this script easy to say today. I, for one, am very excited. But on a serious point, it's reported that year over year, the proportion of bot traffic is growing, and the disruptions caused by malicious automation results in tangible business risks, from brand reputation issues to reduced online sales and security risks for web applications, mobile apps, and APIs. Okay. Well, I thought the largest proportion of traffic on the internet was of adult content. How could I have been so wrong? Okay. And that's the news for the 16th of May, 2023. I am Aaran Leyland. Thank you, Jason Wood. Amazing and educational as always. See you on Friday, as Dr. Doug is away all week, but we'll be back the week after this one. Peace out, people.